Hey, Rick Stacy here. Welcome to another episode of the Outdoor Biz Podcast, where I hope to provide entertaining conversations with retailers, brand managers, athletes, executives, and others in the outdoor biz to get their stories, tips, strategies, productivity tricks, and ideas that you can apply and take your career or business to the next level. Today's podcast is brought to you by Audible. I've used Audible for many years now. I'm on the road a lot, and Audible allows me to enjoy the great books I discover or are recommended by friends. Get a free audiobook download and 30-day free trial at www.audibletrial.com/theoutdoorbizpodcast. There are over 180,000 titles to choose from for your iPhone, Android, Kindle, or MP3 player. Start your 30-day free trial with Audible today. Hey guys, this episode is with Stacy Bear from Sierra Club Outdoors. Stacy tells us about a new project of his called Adventure Not War, where he goes back to ski and adventure in all the places where he fought, cleaned up after war, or was supposed to go to war. Good on you, Stacy. Hey guys, today I'm speaking with Stacy Bear. Stacy is the director for Sierra Club Outdoors. Welcome to the show, Stacy.
Thanks for having me on, Rick.
Yeah.
Great to be here.
Good to have you on. So let's start with your background. Tell us a little about your first outdoor experience. You were telling me it's like when you were a little kid?
Yeah, so right before I was 2 years old, and my brother was probably 6,
Wow.
my parents moved the family to Botswana. And my dad was an agricultural professor at a university just outside of Gaborone, which is the capital of Botswana. And I have this memory, and I don't know if it's actually my memory or if it's just stories that have been told to me, and I've seen enough of the slideshow photos. But I distinctly remember trying to climb up on top of a termite mound, which I failed at doing. But these termite mounds are absolutely huge. And so I have memories of that. And I got to, I was on a boat in the Okavango, and just some really cool stuff like that. And then my family moved us back to eastern South Dakota, which is where I grew up.
Okay.
From about age 4 or 5 on. And I was in Brookings, South Dakota, home of South Dakota State University, to fighting jackrabbits.
All right.
And the highest point in my hometown was a covered landfill. And it was running up and down that little hill and playing around in the bluffs of eastern South Dakota along the Big Sioux River, and Minnesota and Nebraska. And it was where I grew up. And I grew up. I spent a lot of time camping and running around and just being a kid and doing a lot of stupid stuff in the outdoors.
Right on. So did your parents take you camping? Is that how you got into that? Camping trips?
Yeah, my parents did take me camping. I was a Boy Scout for a long time, got my Eagle Scout. I went to Philmont as a kid. I was lucky enough to go to, this like European Scout vacation. So I spent a lot of time as a kid in the outdoors. And I think later on, years later, when I came home from the military and ultimately got invited to go out rock climbing, I think part of the reason that invitation worked for me was because I had spent so much time in the outdoors. And so I knew that time in the outdoors was something I had enjoyed. It was just something that I hadn't done at that point for a couple of years in my life. But
if you made it to Eagle Scout, then you've got a lot of great experience. I mean, that kind of cements the deal for. I never made it to Eagle Scout, but that cements the deal for a lot of folks. So that's awesome.
Yeah, and I think it's more. I mean, Eagle Scout is. I think at that point is kind of icing, or fancy icing on the cake, because it was the weeks of summer camp. I mean, I still like Medicine Mountain out in the Black Hills and Mini Point in Minnesota and Covered a Wagon in Nebraska. I think those were I think we went to Medicine Mountain 3 or 4 years, and I got to go to summer camp like 5 or 6 years.
Yeah, that's awesome.
And there are times where I'll be walking out in the woods and I'll catch a smell or I'll see something, and it will put me right back, at those early memories at ages 11 or 12. And a lot of the kids I went to summer camp with, like, even though we've all gone and done really different things in life, and a lot of us have moved away from South Dakota, we're all still in touch. And I think a lot of it is because of those. Yeah, it's crazy, but I think a lot of it is just because of the shared experiences we had. Yeah. Running around, getting lost, getting cold.
And that's huge. I have a bunch of all the guys that I went through. One of my best buddies we met in first grade. I mean, it's just, we just ran around the town and rode bikes and played sports and did all this, Boy Scouts, Cub Scouts, all that stuff. It really creates a tight bond. That's awesome. So back to the termite hill. Did you get all bit up? You must have.
I don't really remember what happened. I mean, I seem to be smiling in a lot of those pictures. the early 80s was definitely a time of long socks and very short shorts. So,
Right.
I guess I was relatively okay.
So you might have pretty covered up.
Yeah, but yeah, I mean, that was, I think kind of the earliest memories of time outside and just running around. And,
Yeah.
and that was a really lucky, I hope I have a little girl now, and I really hope someday that we're able to give her an experience like my parents gave my brother and I.
That's cool. Yeah.
It's kind of a big, grand family adventure for a couple of years.
Yeah. Well, so you're involved with the Sierra Club Outdoors. How long have you been doing that? That's got to be a pretty cool program.
It's been a fantastic job.
Yeah.
I've been at Sierra Club for, I think 6.5 years now.
Oh, wow.
And I've been the director of the program for about 5 of those years, a little over 5 of those years. I came onto the Sierra Club several years ago, 2011, spring of 2011. It was right before my first nephew was born.
Mm-hmm.
And as a military outdoors coordinator, so I was running a program that I started with my buddy Nick Watson called Veterans Expeditions out of Boulder, Colorado. And that program was being run primarily off of, we had some donations, but it was being run off the rest of my credit card limit, mixed savings, and a lot of faith.
Wow.
And
good for you.
We pitched a grant to the Sierra Club Military Family Veterans Initiative, which at the time was giving out grants to support various initiatives, getting service members, veterans, and their families outdoors.
Mm-hmm.
And they had actually funded the company that I started at, Veterans Green Jobs in Boulder, Colorado.
Mm.
And I reached out to them and I said, hey, so now I'm, running Veterans Expeditions, and we've got some funding and we'd like to keep doing it. And if you give us, however much money I asked for in the grant, I said, not only will we get a bunch of veterans outdoors, but we'll come teach Sierra Club outings leaders how to do a better job engaging service members in the military, because the thing, and the thing that we're still struggling for, I think, in the outdoor recreation community, right, is how do you create that continuum of engagement?
Yep.
And I think too often outdoor groups are nervous to share their participants. They're nervous to tell their participants where to go. But, I mean, you get done with an Outward Bound course, and I love Outward Bound, and you get done with an Outward Bound course, and they said, our job is to light the fire.
Yeah.
Well, to get somebody into an Outward Bound course or to get to the fire lit, not everybody's just going to go on an Outward Bound course.
Right.
And what do you do with somebody when they get home?
Right. And
how do you kind of engage? And Veterans Expeditions was kind of born from the idea of how do we get veterans outdoors when there's not a base camp, right? That we can go to and call home.
Yeah. And
that's what we wanted to do with the Sierra Club, was like, let's create this kind of virtuous cycle of engaging people in the outdoors. And off of that grant pitch and a hiring process, they ended up hiring me. And I remember thinking to myself, and they said, you got to move to DC. And I was living in Boulder. And I thought, all right, it was a job.
Yeah.
And I was like, but I'll be right back. I'll be right back.
Yeah.
And 6.5 years later, here I am. And Nick's doing great work and moved Veterans Expeditions down to Salida, Colorado. And we partnered for a few years really closely together. And and then my boss left after a year, and they promoted me. And so we have Military Outdoors, which is self-explanatory, Inspiring Connections Outdoors, which works in about a little over 50 communities and towns and cities across the country, getting kids out and some adults out who may not otherwise have a chance. We have our Local Outings program, which is our membership benefit and community outreach program. And that's overseen by Mel McInnes, and I should say our Military Outdoors program is now run by Rob Vessels. And then we also do, across the board, we do a lot of conservation outings.
Right. And
then we also have a significant advocacy piece for the Jackie Osfeld runs, which is how do we know. So all told, we get about 265,000 people outside a year, which is fantastic.
That's fantastic. Yeah.
But there's millions of people in this country. And so a lot of Jackie's work focuses on how do we ensure that communities have parks, that people have access to trailheads, that there's better improved transportation to get to those trailheads, that people know about the benefit of the outdoors, and that people are getting outside on a more routine basis. And then we also, the last initiative that I want to talk about a little bit is the last few years, we've been running a project called the Great Outdoors Lab, which has been super interesting and a lot of fun. And we've partnered first with the University of Michigan and the last several years with the University of California's Greater Good Science Center on putting data behind the notion that time outside is good for you. And
Yeah.
that's been a really exciting program.
Yeah, that's awesome. There's a lot of programs going on. There's a big initiative with some of the healthcare providers out here in California. They're studying that and starting to, promote the findings, which the findings are no surprise to us that spend so much time out there. It's great for you. You got to get outside. So that's good stuff.
Totally. And I mean, what we've seen like, so we researched a group of veterans and a group of youth over the course of 3 years. We got to about 180 participants, so 112, what was that? I think 108 or 112 kids who came up with would have like an adverse childhood experiences survey score of 2 or more typically, and about 72 veterans. And across the board, we saw 27% decrease in post-traumatic stress symptoms from before the trip to after the trip for up to a week. And I think 17% reduction or 19% reduction in overall stress and increases in sleep. And that was just from an overnight raft trip.
Wow.
Right. And
one night. Yeah. Just one night. Oh, wow.
Yeah. So there's nothing else out there pharmacologically that's going to give you those results that I'm aware of.
Exactly. Yeah. So of those 250,000, how many, go back? Do you track that? How many go back? How many stick with it? How many fall in love with the outdoors? Do you know those numbers?
Well, we know that. Yeah. I mean, to get to 265,000, it's a lot of people returning every year to the outdoors into our programs. And some of our programs with our, it's a little bit harder to track because a lot of our programs are about introducing people and giving skills so that people can continue to go outdoors.
So when they go back out by themselves, you don't really know. Yeah, right.
We don't necessarily track it, but I would say, I mean, I'm comfortable saying 80 to 90% of the people that we get outdoors can continue on in one way or the other. And I actually would think that number is a lot higher.
Yeah.
The best is every once in a while I'll get an email from somebody that says, hey, you may not remember me, but I took the Sierra Club course, or I met you on this course, 4 or 5 years ago. And now I'm, at least once a year, I'm helping my neighborhood get outdoors, and we take all the kids camping, and I never would have done that before.
That's awesome. Yeah.
It's also fun when you run into people sometimes on the trail or put in or take out of a river trip, and they say, oh yeah, I started getting outdoors with Sierra Club, or this is a Sierra Club trip. Did you know that? And it's like, people explain to you what Sierra Club Outdoors is. And that's fantastic. I mean, that's what we want, right? Is that continuation and that growth of people getting outside, and that they're focused on their own experiences and the experiences of their community, or leading in their community in some way. And,
that's awesome. Yeah. So how are you? Fantastic. How are you guys partnering or engaging with the outdoor brands and the outdoor retailers and things like that?
Well, I mean, we have a lot of commitments and partnerships with outdoor brands across the country.
Providing
some of
gear
those,
and equipment
we've
stuff,
had gear and equipment. REI has been funded a lot of the research. They were a great partner in that. The North Face has been a partner for years and years and years with us and supporting some of our military outdoors. We've had a lot of outdoor brand athletes join us on various trips and experiences, which has been fantastic. They want to get to know a little bit more about what we do, or get to know a little bit more about, the kids we're working with, or the veterans we're working with. So, I mean, we've partnered, on a lot of different things. We also do a lot of advocacy outings, right? Trying to highlight why an area is beautiful and needs protection. And, we've had a lot of different brands come out with us and partner with us on that. We've partnered with Oars, which is a great raft company. They've been a wonderful partner with ours, and we're working with NRS and Chaco and Oars
cool.
to highlight a river runner, a river guide who spends his, grew up in an oil and gas town and spent a lot of his career in oil and gas, and is now working, in the outdoors. And,
that's great.
Trying to highlight to people there's more that binds us together than pulls us apart. I mean, you look at the news, or you watch a news television, and I just, the crazy thing is, like, I'm just not seeing that yet, thankfully, in my daily life. And I have friends across the political spectrum, and we, we're a nonpartisan organization, and and we take a lot. We do fishing trips, and we have a lot of hunters and fishers who come out with us, and we have people who partner with us all across the political spectrum. And I think, and if we could get Congress outdoors on an overnight.
Yeah, I saw your
with
comment.
Some of the folks you and I know.
I saw your comment. Like, when that happens, sign me up. I want to be there. I want to help those guys, see the light.
Right? I mean, I know it's like sit around a campfire and
exactly.
Talk
and
get a little dirty and
and
at the end of it, I mean, that's the thing about the outdoors, right? Nobody, like, even if it's been raining the whole time and it's kind of cold, like you get to the trailhead and you're like, hey, I had a great time.
Yep.
You're like, wow,
exactly.
And I got to know some perspectives and hear some things I would never ever heard, and that's a lot of what I think we do in communities. Where we are is we just keep on connecting people and people meet each other, and that's I also have a personal project I'm working on called Adventure Not War.
I was going to get to that.
And where I fought and cleaned up after war, and that's also been a place where we've had a lot of great brands really get behind that, and
that's pretty new, right?
And help share that message.
That's pretty new.
Yeah, so the first
years?
one, a couple of years. So the first trip, I got to go climbing with Alex Honnold in Angola in 2015, and actually I'd begin thinking for a few years about going back, but I hadn't really kind of come up with a larger campaign of what it was going to look like. And I met Alex in January of 2015, and we were talking about future projects, and somebody else had been talking to him about Angola. And when that came up, he was like, well, let's go do that. And so I didn't even really have a chance to kind of think through, like, well,
how do we do it? Just
I
go
know
do
I wanted to do this.
Yeah.
Right. But it's, but when Alex Honnold invites you to go climbing or says, hey, let's put that trip together, the answer is okay.
Yeah. The answer, the answer is
always,
always,
I don't have a logo.
Yeah. Yeah. Right. Figure that out later. Yeah. That's cool.
So,
so
it's been great.
Yeah, so you guys, you had a couple of projects under that Adventure Not War, right? Two. I was looking at the website today. 2 going and some scheduled, or
right. We've had 2 projects. So we the website is unfortunately not that updated because it's a personal project. I don't get paid. We're not an organization. It's just an idea.
Yeah.
But we are trying to raise funds right now for Tent Ed, which is the nonprofit. It was started by a buddy of mine that I know through the veteran community, Zach Bozzi, and working on bringing education supplies to refugee camps in Iraq.
Oh, awesome.
And we visited Zach in some of the refugee camps he works with when we were just in Iraq. And that was the second project that we ran, which was we went and skied in Iraq this last year. And the North Face was a big partner. We had a lot of great partners on that. But the North Face put out a little video, 7-minute video folks can watch if they Google Adventure Not War, the North Face YouTube. It'll pop right up.
Yeah, we'll put links to all that in the show notes. Yeah, so
great.
Everybody. Yeah.
It was Matt Griffiths, who runs Combat Flip Flops, was one of the ski partners, and then Robin Brown, who runs Brown House PR, and she has some outdoor industry clients as well, but they were both veterans. And we went back and skied in Iraq, and so we've got Angola and Iraq done.
Nice, yeah.
And that was in Iraq, what an incredible experience that was.
I can imagine, yeah.
We're figuring out if and when we're going to go to Afghanistan and Bosnia and then the former Soviet state of Georgia are the last 3. And I've kind of tacked on this. I have this dream of going to dog sled. I want to dog sled the Lena River in Siberia.
Nice.
And I never went to war to Russia, but I was a Cold War kid. So I feel like that kind of fits the general idea. And,
sure. Yeah.
who knows after that? I mean, it's kind of a fun way, like, to just schedule expeditions, right? And
exactly
might look around and say, well, where else did the U.S. fight that they're no longer fighting? And let's go find the adventure.
Oh, geez, you can go. You can go in the backyard of where a lot of this product is made over in Vietnam now. I mean, all these packs and stuff are made in Vietnam. You go over there and do some trekking through the jungles or hanging on the beach or something.
Right.
Yeah.
Totally. I mean, and I mean that's the good and the bad of being. Of being in the United States is that I think our country's done a lot of great in the world, but we've also been involved in quite a few wars. But so I and I think with Bosnia and Georgia, former Soviet state of Georgia and Abkhazia, I'm excited to bring my family with me on those trips.
Georgia is awesome.
Bring my little girl and
I did a
bring
trek.
My wife. Yeah, I mean,
I did a trek over there in the Caucasus a couple years ago. Just amazing. Yeah.
Oh, yeah, so beautiful.
If you need connections over there, let me know. I can connect you with those folks that put that trek on there. They're way connected in Georgia. I mean, they're amazing. The woman who ran the trekking company, her husband was over here in the States involved in sea kayaking for a long time. So,
Huh.
yeah, they're way connected in the outdoor business. His name escapes me at the moment, but I'll look it up and send you all those connections. Yeah, that's awesome.
Yeah, we had this moment, man, in Abkhazia. So I lived with this guy named Kim. So Kim and Stacy, and Kim's this big English farmer, and we always disappointed people when we showed up because they were looking for something other than two big hairy dudes. But
that's awesome.
And he and I were looking around, and he wasn't really into hiking. My boss at the time, Dave, he and I did a lot of hiking and kind of minimally technical mountaineering in the area.
Uh-huh.
And Kim and I got it in our heads that we were going to get some kayaks because there's this beautiful river there. So we wanted to get these kayaks, and we were like, we should kayak the river. And
yeah,
we're like, you know what else we could do? We could kayak down the river, and then it spits out into the Black Sea, and we'll just turn left. And then we'll kayak down to the beach. It's like a 15, 20-minute walk from the house.
There you
we'll
go.
start at 7:00 Saturday morning, and we'll schedule a party. We'll have everybody show up for a party, and I'm sure we'll be back in time for the party. And we're like, yeah, great. So we have this, we got these 2 kayaks, and we were like, we need big kayaks. And so I don't know how some smuggler or somebody got us these 2 kayaks.
It's amazing
we didn't
how
know
much
how to
stuff
kayak. We're like, right. We're like, we didn't know how to kayak, but we're like, how hard can it be, right?
Yeah.
We watched some kayaking videos on YouTube, and we're like, well, we're not doing anything that extreme. There's no waterfall. So the Friday night before, a bunch of nonprofit, we're in our 20s, we're single, we go out and party and have a good time, and we wake up a little hungover, and we're like, oh, we should get some water. And I think we each grabbed like a bottle of water, like a sandwich and an apple, because this was going to go. And then our boss drove us up this river as far as
we're going to be done in an hour. No big deal.
Yeah, so we like getting these kayaks, man, and we start going, and we're struggling, right? I mean, we're hungover and we're struggle busting, and then I don't know, about a half hour, 45 minutes later, I shoot past Kim, and that's the last I see of him. And then a little while later, he shoots past me, and that's it.
Wow.
So I'm like, well, no worries, I'll catch up with him, when we get out to the sea or whatever.
Right.
And he's gone, and we're fighting through it. And then I didn't know there was a difference between a river kayak and an ocean kayak and a sea kayak. I had no idea.
Yeah.
And I'm just getting pushed out into the Black Sea, and I get to the point where I'm like, I can't see shore anymore, right? And I'm like,
so you're in some current that's just taking you away, yeah.
Right, it's pushing me away, and so I end up hopping out of this river kayak that is now in the Black Sea, and side stroking in.
Jeez.
Right? I mean, I'm exhausted. Hours later, I show up on the coast. I make it, right?
Right.
Keep fighting and resting, and I'm going to get there. And I mean, we had PFDs, thankfully, but
oh yeah, that's good.
Fighting through all this stuff. And I finally get to shore, and I'm like, I've lost the sandal, and I'm walking along this rocky shoreline. And before I get to where we got spit out, I hear this crying. Wow. And I'm like, what is that? And it's Kim. And the same thing has happened to him that happened to me. But he never saw me shoot out. And he's like, I thought you were dead.
Oh, no.
So we end up walking this whole way back up the beach, right? And we don't show up to this party. We invited people to start at 7, thinking we'd be there. And we get there at 9 or 10 o'clock at night, and there's a bonfire, and it's raging. And nobody even...
You guys stagger in like you're back from the dead. Yeah, right. Who are these guys?
Staggering, dead tired. Everyone's like, hey, how was it? So that's my story. That's my adventure story.
Nice.
So my best adventure story. It's also the worst adventure story.
Oh, those are often the same story. Yeah, often. Yeah, exactly.
Right. Yeah.
So, what have been some of your biggest challenges in working with these groups at Sierra Club Outdoors, and then also starting Adventure Not War? Has it just been finding money, or I mean, participants got to be coming out of the woodwork, right? Yeah, I'll sign up for that.
Yeah, I mean, especially, I think the biggest challenges we have for any of these groups, I mean, I think largely the outdoor community is really grappling with how do we make sure that everybody feels welcome, because the outdoors have been so dominated by white men.
Yep.
And so I think the hardest part has been making everybody feel comfortable, being relevant, culturally relevant. And I think it's realizing that not everybody, like trying to figure out, how do I look more welcoming? How do I help break some of the stereotypes from the outdoors? I think without realizing it, we can flip into a very, very heavy culture. Yeah. And it's something I think I try to be really conscious about. So I think that's been one of the challenges, and even the history of our public lands in this country. Right. You know, somebody lived here before we showed up. Exactly. And, you know, as much as Teddy Roosevelt and John Muir have done for this country in conservation, they're also pretty racist, right? Yeah. And their comments they made around our Native American brothers and sisters were pretty horrible. So I think that's one of the biggest challenges. And then I think the other challenge, you know, is, we just don't have the capacity for the need and the demonstrated need that is there. Right. I mean, we get calls from towns and communities and schools. Can you help us get outdoors? Right. For every veteran slot that we have on an outing, we typically have 3 to 5 or 6 to 7 people who apply for that one slot. I mean, we have an application window, and we typically shut the application window down after a week. So if you don't see that in 6 to 7 days, you're not even going to get a chance to apply, because otherwise we're just overwhelmed with applications. You could probably franchise that thing in every city across America. And we could, one of the best things about the Sierra Club Outdoors program is that we do have a leadership training program, so that people can do leaders where they are. Yeah. And a lot of times we partner with organizations to help, you know, give training, so that those organizations who are already working with a certain segment of the community can feel better or have risk management support. Because one of the challenges, right? I mean, more and more people in some way are getting outdoors, but they don't always know. They don't know what they don't know. Right. And we see it all the time in the Sierra area. See it all the time. Right. And they're not thinking about risk management. They're not thinking about trip planning. And we don't want to tell those people to stop. It's one of those, tell those people, hey, why don't you come to one of our trainings and get educated? And if you're going to lead people in the outdoors, here's what you need to do it right. Because what happens is when those people get hurt, it reflects on all of our community. Exactly. Nobody looks at them and says, well, they weren't with the Sierra Club, you know, and that. No, they just look at him as a backpacker. Right. Yeah. That backpacker got hurt. They don't know that he was, you know, solo guy, never been before. That doesn't come into the equation. Yeah. No. And there's a lot of well-meaning, well-intentioned nonprofits who don't have the right insurance, don't have the risk management, and are illegally guiding out there. Right. And I think sometimes those are some of our challenges, is like, because we also want people to know that the outdoors is a viable career option for them. Exactly. Right. Yeah. You know, we have this program that we're running for the first time, thanks to the Young Leaders Institute at the Outdoor Industry Association. What is it? Who was the guy who started? Skip Yao Leadership. Yeah, Skip Yao Leadership Institute. Yeah. So the Skip Yao Leadership Academy said, well, what can we do to help your work? And so thanks to some amazing industry folks, we're taking a group of 10 veterans and 10 industry professionals out in Big Bend for a rafting trip, so that they have a chance to network and talk, and we can hopefully get more service members, you know, and veterans into the outdoor industry. Yeah. But when you're doing that stuff, you want to say, if you want to guide, this is what guiding looks like, right? We don't want to be perpetuating illegal guiding if we want people to think that this is a way that they can make a living. And so a lot of our multi-day trips, we use, not always, but a lot of our multi-day trips, we use guide programs and guide services, because we want people to see, well, if I want to do this professionally, what do I need to do? Yeah. And here's the permitting process. Here's the insurance, all those things. Yeah. Right. So I think those are some of our biggest challenges, but I mean, all in all, man, it's a dream job. Like I was going to say, I mean, and think about how I get people outdoors. Yeah. And my next question was going to be biggest wins, but your biggest wins are obvious, right? I mean, it's just, you're getting people outdoors, you're exposing more and more people to the outdoors, and that's a win no matter how you see it. Yeah. So, yeah. I mean, and I would say some of the wins we've had, you know, I mean, from a conservation standpoint, as you know, like, you're never done fighting, right? People are always looking at, you know, and I think the goal is, how do we get more people out there? But I mean, the healthcare stuff has been some of our biggest wins, and the research, like, just blown away with the results. which I talked about a little bit earlier.
Yeah.
I tell you, and just the people I get to meet, I guess in terms of, it's not really a win, but just the things that, like you, like,
the connections you make. Yeah, exactly. Yeah. The connections that we make. Yeah. It's awesome. It's a great big tribe. It's awesome.
You make.
Yeah. Yeah.
It is. And I think sometimes it can, again, feel really closed off, and people are like, oh, well, you've been around for a long time. And I'm like, well, I actually didn't start climbing until I was 31 and I didn't start skiing until I was 35.
Yeah.
And they're like, really? And I'm like, yeah, I didn't have any contact here. I just threw myself at this and was like, well, this is what, and it is hard. It's hard work, and it's not always the most glamorous. It doesn't always pay the best, but it's a great lifestyle.
Yeah,
and it's
exactly.
one of those things where, like, I mean, if you showed up in Salt Lake and we're like, hey man, I need a place to stay, my place fell through. You're like, cool.
Right.
Like, come crash at the house and meet my family, and let's go out tomorrow. And I'm glad you're here. And
exactly.
And I mean, there's so many places, like there's more invitations to amazing places than there's time.
Right. Exactly. Right. And around the world too. I mean, that's the beauty of it. Yeah.
Totally. And it's like, man, we went and skied in Iraq, and we got our main objective, and as far as we know, we're the first team to have ever skied down from the highest point in Iraq.
Wow.
Mount Halgard, which is like 11,487 or 11,847, something like that.
Yeah, that's awesome.
And but then you're standing around on top of that mountain, you look over at all these other mountains, and you say, well, look at that line.
Yeah.
How beautiful is that line? And
yeah.
You go to another part of the valley, and before the snowpack went isothermal and we saw a bunch of natural triggered avalanches, we were like, look at that cooler. That cooler is, oh my gosh, is that the best ski run we could ever have? And, and then you're driving around and you're like, holy cow, look at this river. Wouldn't it be fun to pack this? Oh my gosh, look at those rock canyons.
Yeah.
Who's ever climbed those? Like, let's go climb those. And that's just in one tiny corner of the world.
That's
man.
the thing.
Like,
all over the world, we were doing the same thing in the Caucasus. It's like, oh my God, look across the canyon here, look over there. It's just wherever you go, it's just unlimited. There's with all the battles we're having with public lands in this country, there's still a lot of, not nearly enough. Don't get me wrong, but there's still, places that I've not been to, and I live here, so it's awesome.
Right. Even in the Eastern Sierras, or like, the Wasatch is my home range, and there's plenty of ski runs in the Wasatch I haven't hit, or climbs, or hikes, or
rivers.
And now it's fun, right? I have a little girl now, and so I'm doing all sorts of things that I never thought I would do.
That's great.
Kind of some shorter hikes, but looking at things and seeing places and waterfalls and canyons I never would have gone to, and I think that's I guess the biggest victory is every time you kind of see that light go off in somebody's head, and they're like, this is amazing. Or, like you hear somebody say a couple weeks or months go by and they say, hey, you know what? I never thought that was the first time that I've gone 4 days without a drink in forever.
Yeah.
And I thought about this, and this change, I'm going to make this change. I keep going outdoors and do this, or, I got my mom or my kid or this or that out. And I think those are, and I'm lucky enough that I get to see those on a pretty regular basis.
That's awesome. Yeah. And you get to see the sparkle in our,
Yeah. And we also had, like Oregon Peaks Desert, Oregon Mountains Desert Peaks National Monument down in New Mexico. We had a big hand in that. With the veteran community had a big hand in that coming out of Fort Bliss. And so that was a really special moment. Just knowing how much the veteran community and the active duty community put into getting out to just a really, really special. I mean, that's the thing, right?
Yeah.
I mean, I love my landscape. I love my covered landfill in my hometown.
Yeah.
But they're just, I have yet to see a landscape and think, well, that's not a special place.
Exactly. I mean, yeah.
Like, we just live in such a beautiful world.
Yeah.
And I think the goal is to get people out to see it and to enjoy it.
No, I'm with you. I totally agree.
As much as we can.
Yeah, and all around the world too. Yeah. So let's.
I mean, so many places.
Yeah,
so much beauty.
Unlimited. Yeah. So let's shift gears a little bit. What do you have any favorite books that you read, or do you give books as gifts?
That's a great question. I love to read.
Awesome.
And I think I a couple of years ago I got stuck in Little Switzerland, which is a climbing area in Alaska.
Mm-hmm.
Kind of close to Denali National Park, and we got stuck for 10 days because of weather.
Yeah.
And I had a Kindle with me, and I thought to myself, how lucky am I that I get to be a mountaineer in the age of the Kindle?
Yeah, right.
And I reread, for some reason, I had downloaded the entire Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy. And I reread that.
Cool.
And,
God, I haven't read that in a long time.
But
That's
I mean,
a good one.
I read a lot of really different stuff.
Mm-hmm.
And so it just kind of depends on when you catch me, what
Mm-hmm.
book
Mm-hmm.
I would give you.
Mm-hmm.
I'm rereading The White Spider right now.
Oh, cool. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Heinrich Carrier.
I met Heinrich Carrier.
You know, oh my goodness. What was that like?
It's unbelievable. When I was at Eagle Creek, we were their presenting sponsor of the Banff Mountain Film Festival, and he was there. I think he won an award, or his book won an award or something. And we got to go, meet with him and chat with him. And I actually got to walk through. He was going through the airport leaving when we were leaving. I got to walk through the airport and chat with him. And just what a great guy. I mean, he was pretty old then. This was 20 years ago. But yeah, what a cool dude, man. And what a life experience he had, huh? Holy cow.
Oh my goodness.
It's amazing.
Yeah. And I'm actually seeing if I can't find and there's just so many great quotes
right,
that
exactly.
come out of that book. Like everything you read, there's not a page you don't read. But this is the if I can read this quote I've been thinking about a lot.
Oh, cool, yeah.
It is at this point that I should like to remember a man who first conceived the notion of a European rope, Guido Tonea, the Italian climber and journalist who lived in Switzerland. In 1946, at a time when nobody was thinking of reconciliation, when the world was still quivering with hate and bitterness against the war and those who were responsible for its origin, he uttered the following message loud and clear. Mountaineering transcends all everyday matters. It transcends all national frontiers. Mountaineers are a band of brothers. They are all one party on one rope. And, standing on top of a mountain in Iraq, standing out in the Iranian border, I was like, what the fuck are we doing?
Exactly.
Why are we just not focused on beauty? And it's so true.
Yeah, it's amazing. But it's not to get too political, but you wonder what are these governments thinking sometime, It's like, holy cow. But right. I'm with you. Let's get them outside. Let's take them hiking.
Totally.
Yeah.
I mean, I talked to this Russian skier that I met, on Instagram, and we're like, how can we go ski together? Because, the people of Russia and the people of the United States love each other. We want to ski, right?
Yeah,
that's
the thing.
We want to
you know as well as I do. Everywhere,
meet new people.
Yeah, everywhere you've been, you hang out with the locals. They just want to do their thing, right? If you're a skier, they want to ski with you. If you're a boater, they want to boat with you. They want to have a beer with you. They just want to hang out. We did the same thing in Georgia. We were hiking across these huge peaks, and there's the Georgian army looking across at the Chechnyan army, and it's just like, really? And they just wanted to have a beer. They didn't want to have to look at those guys,
Totally.
It's amazing.
Totally. Yeah. I remember, man, in Georgia, in Abkhazia, my buddy Dave and I were hiking, and we thought we were so cool, and we were using, an ice axe and this big steep slope and everything. And this old woman was like, a cord of wood on her back and like rags on her feet and flew past us. And it's like, oh, okay. But the other book, so, I mean, The White Spider, I mean, it's just absolute classic in mountaineering literature. Conquistadors of the Useless is one I like to give out. And when people ask me like, well, why do you climb? I'm like, well, here's the book.
Yeah, cool. Yeah.
But another book that I read earlier this year, Brooke Williams's book, Open Midnight. And it's a trippy, cool book. Makes you think about ancestors, makes you think about the land where we're at now.
Cool. Yeah.
And I've gotten to know Brooke this last year a little bit, and he's an incredible writer.
Awesome.
He's an incredible friend, and he's just one of the things that Brooke wrote in that book that has really been resonating with me. The two things. One is we need to stop trying to save wilderness and let the wilderness save us.
Bingo.
And then another thing that he opened my eyes to that is really something I still haven't really figured out is, in Genesis, the story of Cain and Abel, right?
Mm-hmm.
And Cain killed Abel because he's upset that Abel curried favor with God. And Abel, what he did, right, is he went out and he was a herder out in the wild.
Right.
And Cain was a cultivator and a civilizer.
Right.
And yet God found favor in the wild. And yet you look at our country today, and not just our country, but our world, and Cain has won, man. Cain's winning. And
he's winning right now. Yeah. He hasn't won yet, but he's winning.
Right.
Yeah.
No. And you look at all the scripture, and it doesn't matter what religion the scripture is. Wilderness plays such a heavy role in it, right? I mean, Jesus' sermon was on the Mount. Moses didn't go into a temple to get the 10 Commandments. He went on top of Mount Sinai.
Right.
all throughout religion, right? I live in Utah. Joseph Smith found the golden plates outside, right?
Exactly.
Not in his house, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. So
yeah.
So at some level, that's really been one of the thoughts that keeps hitting me in the head is how do we, like, what was it? What shifted culturally where before we recognized the sacredness of the outdoors, and now we have to work so hard. And I'm happy to do the work. I love doing the work because I do find the outdoors sacred, and we'll work hard for those things we love. But
it's interesting how people.
There's some shift that's happened.
Yeah, it's interesting how people lose their way, whatever it is they lose their way from. We all know people that have, I know a bunch of guys I went to school with that are great sports athletes, ball players, and somewhere along the way, they lost sight of that, and now they're big, huge guys, and, they couldn't run a yard if they had to. It's just, it's interesting how that happens, but, you're right, we got to keep fighting the good fight and get people out there. I mean, that's...
But it happened to me too, man.
Oh, we all do. We all do it. Yeah, we all get off the path. Yeah, as long as we get back on the path. So you spend a lot of time outdoors. What's your best outdoor gear purchase under $100?
Under $100? Yeah. Under $100.
Not on Pro Deal. Everybody asks me, not on Pro Deal? No. Under $100.
I have an air mattress that I bought in Joshua Tree a couple years ago for like $85.
Nice.
And it was it never rains in Joshua Tree. I've never not had it dump rain on me in Joshua Tree. And it got so cold, and I ended up, my air mattress died, and I needed a new air mattress, and I had this like $85 air mattress that I got. And
excellent.
That's one of them that I take everywhere.
Is it a Thermarest?
It is.
Okay.
It's a Thermarest. I don't remember what specific one it is off the top of my head, but that is probably the best gear.
Yep.
Yeah.
Awesome. And do you use any apps, or do you have any daily routines you use to stay motivated or productive or sane? Like journaling or
what apps do I use?
Meditation apps.
I've used. Yeah, I don't. Now that I have a kid, we do sun salutations together every morning and stretching.
Nice. Uh-huh.
And I work with this amazing woman, Kate Galliette from Unbroken Body. She'd be a really interesting person to have on the show.
Oh yeah, cool.
And she is working on all these really cool, helping me understand biomechanics and just these slight shifts and how to bring my body into alignment. And so I have a lot of stretching exercises that I do every morning. And my little girl loves doing them with me. She's like a year and a half, so she's not really doing them.
She's with you, though. That's awesome.
She is. And the other day I hadn't done them yet. We hadn't done them yet. And she was really mad. She's like pissed. And she like grabbing me, and I'm like, oh no, we made breakfast. And I was like in a hurry, and she like went in, and she went to our living room where I normally do them, and she slammed on the ground and pushed me down. And then she did her. So we got into it. So it's like, so she is my current app.
Yep. That's cool.
She reminds me to stretch. I get to go outside every day with her, but in the backcountry, I mean, I use Utah Ranch Center, religiously every morning. I spend time looking at that. I love Instagram, and then I've been using Mountain Hub and Bivy app a little bit lately. I think those are really cool. But for meditation, no, I do. I mean, I do try and meditate every day, and but yeah, no, I would say my little girl right now. She's the big motivator.
Yeah, that's awesome. Yeah, I'll put links to some of those apps in the show notes. Anything else you want to say to the audience or ask of our audience before we go to wrap?
Yeah, I mean, if people want to, Stacy A. Bear on Instagram is probably, or Stacy Bear on Facebook is the easiest way to follow me. I used to be on Twitter, but I realized I'd turned into a complete and total asshole. So I deleted. I was like, man, I don't know how that happened.
I post, but I don't do much on Twitter, but I'm there.
But and if people want to get involved, Adventuring Out War, check all that stuff out. But no, super stoked to be on. It's
glad to have you. Yeah, we'll link to all that stuff in the show notes. We'll put your email in there, and it's great chatting with you, man. Keep up the great work. That's fabulous.
Thanks. No, this was really fun.
Yeah, cool. Right.
And
on.
I've done a couple podcasts recently, but this is really easy. You also don't have a lot of extra, you don't say, you don't have any like nervous tics
Oh, thanks.
tics or anything else like that.
Thanks.
So,
Yeah. I somehow stumbled on something that I can do. So
right?
It's been super fun talking to everybody, though. It's really a blast. So I look forward to seeing you in Denver too. You'll be at the show, right?
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah. Cool. Right on, man. Well, thanks.
I moved to Salt Lake because of Outdoor Retailer.
Oh.
That's what brought me to Salt Lake. So we're sad to see it go, but yeah.
I think everybody's a little sad to see it go. Salt Lake's been a great home for us for many, many years. I'm sure Denver will be as well, but it's it's a shifting landscape, so you got to go where they go.
Yep.
Cool. Well, thanks, Stacy. I appreciate it.
Thank you.
All right. All right. Have a good one. All right. I hope you enjoyed that conversation with Stacy Bear. You'll find him at Stacy A. Bear on Instagram or Stacy Bear on Facebook. That's STACYBARE. And you can also find info about his new project, Adventure Not War, at adventurenotwar.com and on Facebook. You'll find links to all the info we discussed in the show notes at theoutdoorbizpodcast.com/episodes/041. I'd be stoked if you shared your favorite episodes on the socials. And until next time, thank you so much for listening. This episode's featured advocacy group is the California Wilderness Coalition. Cal Wild is a nonprofit whose mission is to protect and restore the wildest landscapes and watersheds on California's public lands. Since 1976, Cal Wild has helped protect over 14 million acres of wilderness and 1,500 miles of wild and scenic rivers. The organization helps bridge the gap between local stewards who know their public lands intimately and the state and federal agencies that manage those lands, forming valuable partnerships at all levels. When you become a member today at the $65 family level, they'll send you a copy of Tim Palmer's book, California Glaciers, for free. Join today at calwild.org/biz. If you want more of the Outdoor Biz Podcast, you can subscribe on iTunes and Stitcher, or go to theoutdoorbizpodcast.com, where you find all the episodes, show notes, and much, much more. You can find us on Facebook and Instagram at The Outdoor Biz Podcast, Twitter at Rick_Saez, that's SAEZ, and my email is rick@theoutdoorbizpodcast.com. Thanks for listening and all the support, and a huge shout out to all my guests, and until next time, be sure to make time to get outside.